Hey, everybody. It is Karen Roy, and we are back with another episode of Life Possible with a Disability. And I am proud to introduce you to my friend, Kathy Zimmerman. We have become friends through social media. I think she reached out and we met a year ago at an Abilities Expo, right? That began the relationship. And then so she has a really unique experience as a wheelchair user, and we kind of wanted to talk about some of the challenges that she faces. So Kathy was born, she's a little person and lived the majority of her life really highly functional, right? And kind of just living that life. Well, in 2016, she sustained a spinal cord injury, which I'll let her tell a little bit more about. So you combined the fact that Kathy is a little person with the fact that she is now a wheelchair user, and that presents us with with Kathy with a lot of challenges. And so I kind of wanted to dive into that today because there's probably a lot of similarities between you and other people who they're living with more than one situation that combined can make things really difficult. So, welcome, Kathy, to the podcast and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here. Um, as Karen said, I was born a little person, but that did not stop me. And I lived a full life. I was a director at a national nonprofit for 30 years. You know, drove around, owned my own car, everything. Then I met my husband now. Back then he wasn't. And we traveled, and we went to Hawaii and St. Thomas and all these great things, and snorkeling and snowmobiling, parasailing. And then in 2016, as Karen said, I became a paraplegic, paralyzed from my waist down due to surgery gone wrong. So that in itself was horrific.
Yeah, yes. It
uh,
always is. Yes.
yeah. So I don't even know where to begin other than wow, what a set of challenges that gave me.
Mhm.
Um, I'm sure every single person that, ends up in a wheelchair faces challenges, but understanding that my arms, are shorter than the average height person, it presents me with a great deal of challenges. Basically, you have to think of it this way: anything beyond, I'm going to say, estimated 5 inches from me, I cannot.
Mhm. Right.
And as a result of that, most average height people can go up to the wheelchair, go up to the refrigerator and possibly pull the door open and maybe reach in. In order
Mhm.
for me to open the refrigerator, I need to wheel so close that now the door won't open.
Right. So, can you tell us what level is your spinal cord injury?
L1,
Okay.
L1.
So, yeah. Yeah.
So, in addition to some of the challenges, and the thing is, I've been told by a few doctors that it's pretty rare, pretty unique. One particular doctor in Baltimore, Maryland, told me that she knows of maybe five other little people that are paralyzed.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I
whoa.
would think it would be. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So while a ton of people in wheelchairs have challenges and a ton of little people have challenges, combine those challenges and you've got me.
Right.
Uh, I think
Did therapists, when you were, like, in rehab, um, initially give you any solutions to these reach problems that really that helped at all?
to be very honest with you, I was only in rehab for like 7 days. Um, I, I
That's another problem that we have that's across the country, which is, and there has been legislation put out to increase the length of rehab stays because they've shortened them to the point now that, there's really very little, there's no time for any functional gain because that's too short of a period of time to learn anything.
and the other thing for me, the doctor there, he basically told the physical therapists, forget it, like don't worry about it, because the one of the things they wanted to quote teach me was to transfer myself. Well, here we go again. As a little person, I don't have the arm length to push down in the chair in my wheelchair to slide over
I understand that.
a sofa or anything else.
Right.
Because of that, they couldn't teach me to go to the bathroom.
Wow.
I can't
Wow.
get on the toilet alone.
Mhm.
And it's frustrating because my husband and I
Hey.
now we have become somewhat prisoners in our own home because I'm afraid to go out to dinner. If I go out to
Mm.
dinner and I need to use a restroom, I'm like, oh no,
Mhm.
because okay, there's a handicap restroom. Oh, it's in the ladies' room, and
Right.
really, all that means is a wider stall and a grab bar. That's all that
Right.
means.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, and honestly, half the time, like, the door, like, will open in, and it might be
Yeah,
wider, but there's not enough depth to fit the wheelchair in, and,
exactly.
you know, that's not that's a universal problem.
Right.
So, one of the solutions that would work for you is if businesses and other public places and private businesses, were using universal design,
Correct.
um, and, specifically, there a bathroom that was unisex,
Yes.
that was accessible, right? So that a caregiver can go in there with you to help assist you, to help you to transfer. So, I know that you said there was some proposed legislation that I'd love to hear some more about.
Yes. Currently in New York, a bill has been introduced. Well, actually, the bill was originally introduced in 2017 and then again in 2019. It is currently in the governmental office, it's in committee, and it's stalled again. I would like to encourage every New Yorker that may be listening to go on to New York State, nystate.gov. No, it's actually, I'm sorry, nysenate.gov, and search for the current bill, which is A2563, which actually requires full family restrooms in all public buildings. If this bill could get passed here in the state of New York, it opens the door for that to be passed in other states.
For sure. So it was so New York Senate Assembly Bill A2563.
Correct.
Okay.
And I,
Um,
yesterday or the other, I think it was yesterday, or the day before, I actually personally called every committee member, either spoke with their assistant and or left a message. There are 14 members on that committee right now, including the chair. And then I followed that up with an email to every single one of those 14 members.
That's exactly what it takes to be an advocate, is that personal relationship, like actually personally reaching out,
Right.
telling your story, and then following up with an email. And then if you don't get a response, that means follow up again, right?
Exactly.
You're going to follow up again, and that could mean another follow up phone call. So it is, but this could, like, I mean, it would change the quality of life for people in many ways, because your situation might be specific
Right.
and it might be rare, but it's not rare for someone with a disability to need a caregiver to go into the restroom with them. That's
Exactly. And
fairly common.
yeah, it's very common because I think people need to think of it this way too. If someone has an autistic child, there could be
Yes.
a 15-year-old boy and his mom is, out with him. She would just need to go in with him. So,
Yeah.
it's a broader scope than just my story.
It really is.
It
Yeah.
just I'm very passionate about it right now, and I'm doing all I can to get this bill moved out of committee so it can then, continue on to be voted on.
Yeah, I was in the New Orleans airport. I live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I found a bathroom accidentally, which was exactly what you said, a really large unisex bathroom. And not only did it have, it was a very large and had all the accessibility features you need. It also had an adult size changing table, a
Yeah.
table that, yeah, so that, and so, because I think that too, like right now, New Motion has sponsored a documentary called Unseen, and it's about
Oh, yeah.
parent caregivers. And so they when you talk about children as they grow into adult size that are going to need assistance in the restroom, and for even for me, like I dress on a flat surface, usually on a bed.
Mhm.
Well, if something happens and like I had to change clothes in an airport or in a bathroom,
Right,
like there it's almost non-existent to find an adult size
right.
platform where you could transfer onto. So I think that everyone who listens in or watches this podcast in the state of New York should join Kathy in emails and in writing letters. And and then as Kathy and I spoke about prior to the podcast, once something like this passes in one state, then it can be used and copied state by state, and it makes it easier for other states to pass legislation like this. In public places, the Americans with Disabilities Act is, signed in 1990, and there's still such a lack of an understanding of what a universal design or accessibility really means. And I think, these large bathrooms where caregivers have the space that they need
Y-
to assist someone, it changes people's lives.
Yes. And speaking of the adult size changing table, I don't know off the top of my head, but there is a woman, and I believe she's in Pennsylvania. She exactly has a son that requires a larger adult size changing table, and she has fought tirelessly in her state pushing for adult size. And I believe it's something hope for love or love for hope. If I did
Well, you know what? Maybe you can add it to, because I'm going to encourage everyone to follow you. So you have a website, just me at livingthislittleparalyzedlife.com.
correct, that's my blog
I'm going to
I started.
That's your blog, right? I'm going to add that to the show notes so everyone can find you. Is it possible for them to reach out to you through that?
Oh, of
Um,
course, they can email me at justme at livingthislittleparalyzedlife.com. The website itself is just livingthislittleparalyzedlife.com. So feel free. The
Perfect.
more people that reach out, the more people, like you just said, that, reach out to their local senators and everybody regarding this particular bill, then it will gain more weight.
Right. And then maybe you could add this woman in Pennsylvania. I think this is, another just
Yes,
really similar topic. So you could maybe more specific information on your website, or they can reach out to you if they'd like to know more.
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so what other kind of information what kind of other blogs have you written? What's
Well,
available on your website?
I have to be honest. I started my blog, back in like 2009.
Mhm.
I retired, and my husband and I were traveling and doing all these things. And the blog used to be titled "Wonderful Wonders" because it was all about the wonderful people, places, and things that we did. And
Mhm.
then I stopped blogging for a couple years after this situation happened to me.
Yeah.
And then in like 2018, I started, well, besides the fact I was bored and needed something to do and needed a purpose, to be honest. That's another thing. You get in a wheelchair unexpectedly. It's like, wow, what's my purpose?
Yes.
So I started blogging again, and that's when I decided living this little paralyzed life. And it was more about the challenges that I face as a little person that's in a wheelchair. And in the beginning of this blog, several posts were kind of down,
Yeah. It's
because
part of the journey. It's
yeah,
part of the journey.
it's depression, it's adjusting, it's having a caregiver other than my husband. Thankfully, he's semi-retired right now, but having an aide that you don't know in your home is quite
Mhm.
challenging in the beginning when you're not used to it. I kind of felt like a guest in my own house.
Yeah, that's an uncomfortable feeling. I'm sure.
So I started blogging. So I think really what I've been facing and blogging about are mostly the challenges, solutions, and resources. Not so much because I myself haven't found them.
Right.
You and your podcast are like my first real resource to get the
Oh.
message out, other than my blog. Um,
Yeah.
but
I like that though. I think that people get to follow along that journey. To be honest with you and everyone, like I think that 2016, when dealing with a brand new injury and then all the other challenges you face on top of that, that's really new. And I tell people all the time, like the grieving process of accepting your new situation, it's years long.
yes,
And no one, um I fortunately or unfortunately have 34 years of experience doing this, right?
yeah,
Um, and I obviously was injured in 1987 before anybody knew what a blog was or really even, the internet. so so it's been a long journey for me to get there, but I think that other people at the beginning of their journey could really benefit from following you, from reading your blog, and who knows who this your specific situation who it's going to resonate with.